and welcome to this week's episode of Tired and Thriving. Oops. A podcast recognizing just how tired and exhausted we all are while discussing ways to still thrive. I'm your host, Samantha Gray, and this week's guest is Lisa Hanawalt. Lisa is the creator of Tuca and Bertie, co-parent of BoJack Horseman, book author, and illustrator. She's currently about to have a solo art show coming up at Gallery Nucleus. And thank you for sharing your time with me, Lisa.
Oh my God, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, let's start with the ever fun question of what got you passionate about art and how did that lead you into your art career?
Ooh, that's a big question. I think I just started drawing as a compulsion to deal with being in school, which now I'm like, this was like maybe an ADD thing where I needed to draw during class. Otherwise, I just could not deal. I was a fidgeter and, and it kind of helped me listen and process what the teacher was saying. But a lot of teachers got really mad at me because they thought if I was drawing, I couldn't possibly be listening, which I'm like, wow, how is that? I mean, yeah, they didn't know about, chill beats or lo-fi beats to study to back then, how you can listen and work at the same time. But yeah, I just kind of kept my hands busy. And I think just by drawing a lot, I got better at it. And it was a way to express myself and feel good. And so I just kind of kept at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turned into a passion later, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, how did you, when did you realize that you were like, okay, I want to do comics, I want to do art, this is something that I want to pursue?
I mean, I started making comics when I was 7 years old. And they were talking animal people. So, it's just something I always did. I liked reading the Sunday funnies, with my parents, and I loved reading Garfield. And I was like, I want to do this too. And I I started making zines in high school with my comics. And they were just very personal comics about my life and about boys and stuff. And boys and girls.
Were you sharing them?
I was sharing them. Yeah, I would print a few copies, 30 copies, when I could steal stuff at Kinko's, or I got a summer office job with a copier. And I would make little copies of my zines and hand them out to my friends in high school. And yeah, so pretty early on I was doing that.
Wow. And then, so then when you went to college, or did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to UCLA for art. So there I was doing bigger paintings and photography and sculpture and stuff. But I was still making comics. And then I actually, after I graduated, I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm not a famous artist yet. I was sort of expecting to be for some reason, right out of the gate. But then my friend Raphael was writing, he wanted to do a diary comic together with me. So he would write it and I would illustrate it every month.
Oh, yeah, so your collaboration with Raphael started really early.
Yeah, we went to high school together and middle school. We didn't become friends until high school when we were both doing theater. We were both theater kids. And he cast me in a one-act play he was directing called The Family Continues. And it was this really bizarre, surreal play where I had to pretend to give birth on stage. And so we became friends. And yeah, so we stayed in touch. And then he went to college at Bard, so he was across the country. But yeah, he would write these diary comics and I'd illustrate them. And it was called Tip Me Over, Pour Me Out. Yeah. And then after doing that for a while, I kind of split off and did my own diary comics.
Oh, wow. Yeah. When you started your comics, have you always drew yourself or drew people as anthropomorphic animals or plants, or was that something you developed later on?
I always drew them as animals. Yeah, when I was a little kid, I made this comic called Snazzy and Jazz, and it was about a horse and a donkey who were roommates.
Oh my God.
And they were anthropomorphic. And yeah, I did draw myself as a human a few times too. My comics in high school, I think I was always a human then. But there was something off-putting about it. I I always prefer to draw myself as an animal. It makes it a little more palatable. Like, it's less grotesque, I'd say.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. In some ways, I would think, like, because sometimes animals are a little more grotesque.
Yes, they can be. I think I don't know. It makes me feel protected because it's less like directly about me and how annoying and fucked up I am. Because, you know, like diary comics, I'm not showing my best self. Because that's no fun. Who wants to read that? Like, show me the juicy stuff. If you're making diary comics, show me the shit, you know, the stuff you're afraid to say. That's what makes them fun. I think those are my favorite, like, diary comic artists, you know. Like, my friend Julia Wirtz makes diary comics, and she draws, like, a cute version of herself, but she's showing the most fucked up shit that's ever happened to her. And they're great. You should buy her book, Impossible People. She has a lot of books, but that's the newest one. But yeah, I think drawing myself as an animal also makes it feel more universal. Like, you can kind of project anyone onto that character if it's, you know, like a moose or a bird or whatever.
Yeah. Well, what got you into book publishing? Is that different from, like, comic publishing, or?
It's just a bigger scale. So, like, I was doing mini comics, and then I made some floppies, you know, with an indie publisher. And floppies are like the small comics that are soft cover, you know, and they're like kind of like you might have multiple issues. Like, so I had I Want You #1, I Want You #2. We did 2 issues. And then Drawn and Quarterly approached me. I think we just met, like, doing comics conventions. Like, I would do Comic-Con, and I would do Ape in San Francisco, and I would do the Small Press Expo in Bethesda. And, like, so I just met them through that. And so, yeah, we kind of collected some of the work from I Want You in my first book. And then I had a bunch of other stuff. Like, I had these illustrated movie reviews I'd been doing for The Hairpin. Which I don't know if you remember The Hairpin. Maybe you're too young, but it was a website.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm sorry.
There used to be more websites that like had writing on them, and they were like good media outlets. Those are a thing of the past. Now there's only a few, and they all publish listicles with affiliate links. Times have changed. But yeah, I did a lot of stuff for them, and so I just kind of threw them into this book, and it was just like, you know, it was like kind of a mishmash of all my weird stuff I'd been working on. And then I did another book with them, which was mostly food focused. That one's Hot Dog Taste Test, but then it also had like the first Tuca and Bertie appearances. You know, I made these comics about Tuca for the web, and those are in there. And that was like before I even ever thought of it as a show.
Yeah. Well, speaking of show creation, actually, right before that, what has been your favorite book that you've published so far?
Oh, that's hard. You're making me choose
it's like
out of my children,
having a child and like choose your favorite.
And yes, it is like that. I mean, yeah, I also have Coyote Dog Girl, which is very different because that one's like a straight up like fictional, I guess you'd call it a graphic novel, but it's kind of short. But it's it's like a cowboy story, a Western. I don't know. I guess like if you're gonna look for one book to buy, maybe Hot Dog Taste Test because it's a little more focused on like food. But I like them all. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't choose.
For sure.
And also, I don't think about them very much. Like I kind of just put them out there, and then I'm like, okay, I did that. Time to move on. You know, I don't like to I don't look back over my old work very much.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's out there, it's out of my mind. I can...
Yeah, I had to, like, exercise that out of my weird brain and then get rid of it. So, like, looking at it again, it feels a little like, you know, taking a shit and then going and looking at your shit. You know, it's like, no, flush it. That's a really mean way to talk about my own work. Sometimes I do look at it and I'm like, okay, there's some quality here. Like, this joke still makes me laugh or whatever. But, yeah. I like to move on.
I love it. I mean, yeah. Shit stuff always funny. Well, it's always a story too.
Always slaps.
Well, shifting to animation, was BoJack Horseman the first job you had in the entertainment industry?
Yes. So what happened with that is that Raphael sort of attached my animal drawings to his pitch, and then they brought me in to like interview me to see if I wanted to design the characters.
Oh, wow.
And then at first I said no, because I was really burnt out from working on this children's book project, and I just didn't want to do any like collaboration stuff. I was like, I just want to focus on my own work. And then they came back like 6 months later and were like, would you? And by that, which was really nice. It was flattering that they came back. And then I said yes. And then just the show happened to sell, and they were like, we got to make the first season in 7 months. And so I moved out to LA.
Oh, so you were in New York.
I was in New York at the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do think that's interesting how Raphael went to Bard and you were in LA, and then you guys switched places basically.
I know. So like 1 month after I moved to New York, Raphael had to move to LA for a job. I was like, God damn it, buddy.
You're like, come on.
And now we're finally in the same place. But now he's on the west side and I'm on the east side. So come on. I'm not going to drive all the way out there.
Well, that's interesting that you had 6 months of like that they came back to you 6 months later. What changed in those 6 months? Where did you just have enough time to get through the burnout from that project? And
yes, exactly. And like I was like, okay. And then they were more specific about what they wanted and like what the time frame was. Because like before they were sort of like, well, we don't know, and we don't know how much we'll pay, like. So it was a little confusing. And I didn't really know how to like, I only had like a book agent at that point, so none of us really knew how to deal with these like Hollywood people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it was like, okay, we need like 10 character designs, and I had never done anything like that before, so I was designing them with watercolor on paper, which is insane. Like, that's nuts. And then I like bought my first Wacom, a Cintiq, so I could draw on the computer, and there was like a steep learning curve. And yeah, then I started working with like Mike Hollingsworth, the supervising director, and he like taught me a lot about animation. He's like, oh yeah, so when you have a background and you have like a piece of furniture, you have to draw like the room behind the furniture in case that furniture moves, because like you still want there to be wall back there. I like didn't know that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was really, really green.
It's like always interesting learning how the whole animation process and what you have to like I don't know how much depth there is, and how much I think a lot of people don't realize how much goes on behind the scenes, I guess.
Yeah, and there's just so many things to think about when designing for a pipeline where like 100 other people are going to touch it versus designing for yourself. So that was a really rough transition for me. Like I was really sink or swim, and I made a lot of mistakes when I started. Like people would be mad at me and I didn't know why. And then I was like, oh, like finally someone told me like, oh, you made this pattern on this shirt so complicated that when we like rotate the character, it's like a nightmare trying to make sure the pattern doesn't jump around. I'm like, you have to tell me because I'm an idiot and I don't know any of this stuff. Like I didn't go to animation school. I truly am a fraud.
Oh my gosh, no. I don't believe it.
Yes, imposter syndrome become manifest.
No, but it's like, I feel even if we went to animation school, because technically I didn't do animation until my last year of college, but even in just that 1 year, I feel like it did not prepare me for the workforce. And I learned so much more just by being there and, learning from everyone else that, yeah, you can't be like, oh, I should have known this, or I would have learned this if I, studied it.
That's true. You learn so much by doing and by observing and by getting tips from like a bunch of different people who all have their own way of doing things. Like, yeah, it's kind of hard to fast track that. Like you can't just like read a book and learn everything you need to know. And I guess that kind of goes for literally everything in life.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice if a book could encompass all of that, like observation and kind of like,
Yeah. Oh, it'd be great.
practice.
I would love to like learn something in a weekend and become an expert at it. And somehow for some reason I always expect to. I'm like, why am I not good at this thing yet? I just started it. But I wanted to be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like amazing at it right away.
Yeah, like why can't it just genius unlock in my brain and like...
I know. I still need to learn how to like enjoy the process of being bad at something and slowly getting better. It's so tedious. But then when you do start to get good, you're like, oh, hell yeah. Something's clicking that didn't click before. And then you realize how much more you need to learn to actually get good. Yeah.
I feel like, I feel that. I really feel that a lot. And then that's when the imposter syndrome comes in, right? Because then you're like, well, I didn't get it on my first try. That means like, I don't understand, but.
I know. And it's like mortifying.
Yeah. Well, would you say BoJack changed your life's direction dramatically in terms of, did it open doors to avenue you didn't even realize was possible?
Oh, of course. Oh my God. Like in every way. Yeah. Like the people I met, you know, working on that show, like the way I learned to enjoy working in an office with other people, even though I like considered myself to be, you know, super hermity in the way I work, totally changed, you know? I like learned so much about animation. That's the whole reason I ended up pitching my own show. Yeah. I
mean, did you even think of a career in animation before that, or?
No, I mean, like, so when Raphael and I were in high school, like we used to like, you know, we'd flip through my sketchbook and joke about like the characters that I drew and make up little TV shows for them. So that's like a fun bit of history that seems like really prescient. But no, I did not actually think I was like gonna go Hollywood. That was not part of my plan. But it's, you know, it was one of those things where saying yes to something leads to other stuff. And then, you know, partway through making BoJack, Raphael just asked me, like, do you have any ideas for TV shows? And I was like, actually, yes. And so we started talking about Tuca and like, that took years to develop.
So was that something where you looked back at your book and figured it out from there, or was that always a character that you were like, oh, this is something I've been, you know, thinking about in my mind?
She was the character that to me really had legs, like just felt like a fun character that I wanted to see more of and develop. You know, it's fun because she was kind of like a version of me. She was like my id, or, you know, she was like me in my early 20s when I was a little more like wild. Even though, you know, most people would think of me as a Bertie, and that's true. So, yeah, it really was Tuca from the beginning. You know, at first it was going to be more of a like kind of one-woman anthology show where there was like a bunch of different stuff going on, kind of more like my book, like a kind of a mishmash. But then after a while, we kind of focused in more on Tuca and Bertie and how it being about female friendship and it being a little bit more of a straightforward sitcom-y type show.
Well, since we're talking about Tuca and Bertie, I want to bring up how I have worked with you both on BoJack as a character design supervisor, then on Tuca and Bertie storyboarding and directing. And this has been something that when I'm asked, what has been your favorite production to work on? I always say Tuca and Bertie as like my number one.
Great. I love that. I like when people have a good experience working on shows with me. I mean, that's the best I could hope for.
Oh my God. And let me tell you why. Let me go on to tell you why.
Sure. Gas me up, Sam.
Well, I say it was my number one, and it is my number one, because that was the first time that I worked on a majority female presenting crew, where we had one of the smoothest productions ever, where we got to be wacky and zany in adult content, which is kind of unheard of. And you really used your creator position to lift up people that otherwise wouldn't have had like a voice or an opportunity. And like I remember reviewing one of my episodes in season 3, and everyone in the meeting was female presenting, and we all had to like just take a moment to like look at each other and just because none of us had that in our career. And I feel like that was possible because of you.
Oh my God, you're going to make me cry. I mean, it was important to me. It felt like we needed to like balance out the typical, adult animation space, which has been very much largely male, white and male. So I don't know. I just felt like the scales are tipped one way and we need to tip them back the other way. And also it just made the vibes are different, You know.
I do know.
You are aware. You are experienced in this industry. So yeah, it was really important to me. But yeah, that's nice to hear. I don't know, like as a showrunner, you kind of have to be like so singularly focused and like selfish to a certain degree. So I don't know. I always want to make sure other people are having a good time too.
Yeah. Well, and it happened, and especially like, with how diverse it was too. Like I forgot to add that it was a very diverse crew, which is also very rare with adult content. I
mean, yeah, it had to be. I mean, like, like I think if the voice actors are diverse, the crew should also be, and the writers should also be, the behind the scenes should also be. That's my philosophy. Yeah.
Well, it's a philosophy that's being carried on, I feel like, with the people that were under your tutelage.
My tutelage. My tutelage.
Your tutelage. The Tuca and Bertie lidge.
Yeah. The plumage.
Well, what are you most proud of that came out of Tuca and Bertie that you wouldn't have imagined in a million years?
I am proud of the writing because I think that's the thing I'm most self-conscious about, just because I've always been strong as a visual artist. But the writing, I was sort of like, I had to learn, like I'd never written a script before I did Tuca and Bertie. And yeah, Raphael, who was an exec producer on it, was literally like, here's an act break. Like, here's the structure. Here's how you like break down an episode into index cards. And I was like, okay. And it was a steep learning curve. Again, something I like at first was a little shaky at and then got better at. And so I'm really proud of that. That was like a really challenging thing. And like, running a writer's room and just like figuring out how to break a season. Like, and just like all the things I learned on that show, like it was cool to learn about like sound mixing and, have opinions about that. I really enjoyed all of that. I hope to get to do that again someday.
Yeah. And I mean, was that something on BoJack that you were ever a part of? Because at some point you became a producer on it too, right? Or executive producer?
Yeah, in name. But I still feel like my role on BoJack was like more sequestered, to the art side of things. Like I didn't have very much say in the writing at all. So yeah, and like I wasn't sitting in mixes or anything.
Yeah. Were there any themes or storylines that you can tell us that you wish fans were able to see before it was canceled?
Oh gosh, there were so many things I wanted to do. I really wanted to take it in a super dark direction in season 4 and kind of have it be about how all your little hopes and really are like not necessarily going to happen for you, which is really really, really sad. Like both for Speckle and Bertie, I thought their dreams were going to be crushed in many ways, but that they would, find a way to be happy in spite of that. I just think that that's like a thing that kind of comes to light when you're getting into middle age, not to like take this in a downer direction, but yeah, you're sort of like, wait, but I set up all my little plans and my life was going to look like this. And then it just doesn't for so many different reasons that can happen that are out of your control. And it's very humbling and like, people react to it in different ways. Like some people really spin out. Some people like, I don't know, buy a convertible. Like there's all kinds of reasons why people go a little bit nuts in their midlife. So yeah, I wanted it to be about that. And then for Tuca, there's definitely going to be more with her and Figgy. I really liked that character. He was fun.
I think everybody did. Everyone on the crew just absolutely adored Figgy.
I really made like everyone's dream boyfriend. Him and Speckle, I gotta say, like I made some really good male characters for it being like a female focused show. Like two of the greatest, like, dream boyfriends. This tree, this Robin. I would date either of them.
For real. I mean, yeah. Yes.
I credit the voice acting as well. I mean, hard to argue with Stephen Yeun and Matthew Rhys.
Yeah.
Undeniable.
I know Speckle really felt like a surprise favorite, but I guess like when you do make because it's so male characters or just like men dating men in general. I feel there's so many crappy ones that when you do create this dream kind of like idyllic man, everybody is going to be a fan of them. I don't know.
I think he was like relatable too because he's a man. He's a man who like is holding everything together. He's kind of like a golden retriever, but underneath that, there's just a lot of pathos and like anxiety and a lot of pressure on him. And Bertie's like not a perfect partner at all. She's very flawed. And so like, yeah, the two of them kind of working things out. I mean, obviously like a lot of him is inspired by my real life partner, Adam. He's a similar kind of man in some ways, but then Speckle kind of became his own character, of course.
Wee you, a little interruption. So the recording program I used, since we were doing this over the internet, kept kaputting out on us. And basically, like, I'm able to keep up with the conversation because the video would still tell me what Lisa was saying. But in this case, it lagged so bad that it just completely took out what she said about Adam. And that's why I'm gonna come back into this conversation talking about Adam, and we go on from there. So let's get back to it. Well, I can't wait to hear what you said about Adam.
Oh, I said he's a nice man. He's got delightful qualities and also flaws that I can. And the best thing about Adam is that he doesn't mind me making art inspired by our lives. You know, he's a stand-up comedian, so he uses stuff from our personal lives for his stand-up, and I use it for my comics, for my writing, you know, and we both have this understanding that it's all grist for the mill, and we can use it, of course, with each other's permission, you know, like we're not going to do anything that hurts each other deeply, but like, yeah, I mean, that's like the stuff you know how to write about is what's happening to you.
That's interesting that you said that he uses your relationship in his stand-up, because I guess like everything I've seen of Adam's has been more of him being the information guy, and I haven't seen anything like I don't think I've seen a post of him doing stand-up before.
Yeah, he doesn't post a lot of clips, I gotta say, but he his new hour that he's been touring with does have some stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's a little more personal for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm excited for people to see that. I think he's going to release it at some point, so you'll be able to watch it online.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, he's not just the information guy. Although he is. He has a lot of information, too. He's very generous with it.
Yeah. I mean, he felt like one of the, what was it? Not leaders. Although he might have been one of the captains in like the WGA.
Oh, yes. He was on the negotiating committee. So he was like really, yeah, a big part of it. And then, of course, yeah, he was out on the picket line. Like he was doing a lot of press.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember all the videos he kept posting. And it was just like, yes, keep us updated.
Yeah, he was really great at like sort of disseminating information for everyone. And like, you know, I gotta say, he was really good at just like taking phone calls and just making sure people had the information they needed, like one-to-one as well. And so I don't know, I was really proud of him for how he did during that. Like he really stepped up.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam. I love my boyfriend. God.
Well, okay. So I feel back to Tuca and Bertie. I feel that audience reactions are almost always going to be different from what we anticipate, as creators. Was there anything that took you by surprise from the audience reaction of the show? Like, did you think that they were going to like one character, but then they didn't like them? Or was there a storyline that, people reacted differently to than what you expected?
Oh, always. I mean, there's definitely like things that I thought were super funny and that didn't really seem to pop much at all. I mean, there's that terrible bunny character that I made that just nobody liked that, but I loved it. It made me laugh so much, and it horrified all the writers in the writers' room. I voiced her too. Oh, she's awful, but I love her. I don't regret it. It's just funny to see like what pops and what doesn't, like what characters become popular and which ones don't. Like some you can predict, like Figgy. Okay, I know people are gonna love Figgy. I know they're gonna ship him and Tuca immediately. The Kara stuff was interesting, like how people reacted to that. I don't know, like a lot of people related to it really deeply, which I liked. One thing that really surprised me was people got really mad when Tuca was mean to Speckle. Like there's an episode where she's just like beating him up and this giant duck is like pounding on him. It really made us laugh and people hated it. They thought it was so mean, and that was funny. They're just like, people became very protective of Speckle to the degree that they were like angry at me for mistreating Speckle, which is just like a hilarious thing that maybe happens with animation fans where they take it very seriously. I'm like, guys, he's a cartoon. We can abuse him. We can beat him to a pulp, and he'll spring just right back to action the next episode. Don't worry about it.
He's perfectly fine.
I have a kind of enjoyment of violence that can be a little surprising, I think, because it was generally considered to be a sort of soft, welcoming, safe show, but occasionally something bloody would happen, and it was like a little bit jarring with the tone. But that's me.
I find that interesting because, there were a couple times where I would anticipate like the one I think about is my first episode directing was the meeting of Bertie and Speckle. And there was this moment where they shared a pickle together. And I remember I directed it to be like very cute and very like not in their space. But then the note from you was, you were like, no, I want him to be like forceful. I want him to, be more aggressive. And it was just like such a surprise to me. I was like, whoa. I know that's a very small moment of aggression, but it was still something that I was like, oh, I just never anticipated like this side or this kind of thing for these characters.
So you froze for a moment, but is this the moment where like Bertie and Speckle are at the diner?
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, so yeah, and I wanted him to be like a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
Yes, I think because he was so soft and gentle and friendly and polite, and I wanted to give him a moment of like being sexy. And that's like, I think it can be a little sexy when someone shows that side where they're just a little devilish, they're like they're a little bit like they're crossing a boundary a little bit, or like, but it's in a way that's not actually threatening, because they're not actually gonna do anything bad. It's just like, he was being a little playful or something. Like it was like a little, I don't know, just giving him a little, like, I'm lacking for words here, a little edge or something. Yeah, I don't know, just like a little bit of something surprising there.
Definitely. I mean, it surprised me. And I was the one that was like directing it and supposed to, know these characters, or like getting to know these characters.
He's a round character. He's got a lot of depth to him. So it can't just be one thing. It can't just be like Sweetie Pie Speckle all the time. Like he's got a different side to him, as most birds do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, and it's those are the kind of things that I really enjoyed working with you about, where in a way, it like pushed my boundaries of like, oh, this is something that I would think is so intimate, right? Like to me, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, that's I'm almost like, that's something you leave in the bedroom, but you kind of, yeah, like you said, you put these moments that are like, I think it's that thing where people wouldn't show that typically, or, yes, I feel like Speckle would probably have some of that more like intimately than, than the sweetie pie romance that we like kept seeing him in.
I think, part of it is that it was a show for adults and I wanted it to be adult. So it was allowed to be complex and a little bit like dirty sometimes. But it's hard, as the person who needs to be the one who makes that happen, it did make me feel like a complete pervert sometimes where I'm like, am I like making people make my porn? Like, what am I like this? Like the ethics of it would make my head spin because I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable ever. But, there's people in the crew who are like more not into that, I guess, or like, and the show had sex on it. It had, romance. It had like interesting situations, like, like in the first season, like Pastry Pete like shoves Bertie's head into a hot pan and then she goes and jerks off about it. Like it's very much like, no, this is an adult show and things are complicated. Yeah. Like sometimes you jerk off to something that's very wrong. Yeah. So I know that that's definitely uncomfortable, but this kind of goes back to the diary comics conversation where sometimes I feel like the stuff that embarrasses you the most or like makes me feel sweaty and panicky, like pitching to people is some of the best stuff. Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah. And it's definitely something that you just don't see, in media, honestly. Like, so thank you for breaking barriers.
Well, especially from a female perspective, like I feel like we're often seeing, the male gaze or the male perspective on what's hot. And that's very different for me personally. There's always like lines that I won't cross. They might be different from other people's, but like, yeah, there's definitely stuff I'm like, no, that's like makes me nauseous to even think about. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, if you could have the ideal amount of time to tell the whole story of Tuca and Bertie, how many more seasons do you think you'd need?
I would have liked to have at least one more just to wrap things up a little bit. Some warning would be nice, but that's not always how things go. I'm lucky I got 3. So grateful, so blessed. I could have gone a long time. I mean, you always worry you'll run out of story, but the more you make, the more story there is to generate, really. Like I could have gone for 10 more seasons easily. Oh wow. Yeah, I mean The Simpsons is still going. Why not the birds? But yeah, I could have kept going.
Well, do you think that you'll try and finish the story in one form or another, or
I don't know. I need to take some time from it. I think I need to like explore other stuff because I don't want to be known for just one thing. And I like to challenge myself, so right now I'm like very interested in live action. I'm trying to write some stuff that I'm interested in. That's just like, it's very different. I think you could connect a dot from, or a strand from it to Tuca and Bertie as far as like themes and stuff. But yeah, I think I didn't want to like be like, this is my one thing.
Yeah.
But that's, life is long and weird, so never say never. And there would be something satisfying about getting to finish the story the way I wanted to tell it.
Yeah. I mean, I think me and other fans would feel the same way because we wanted to see more of Figgy and Tuca.
I know. I have thought about like, oh, I could do it as like a graphic novel or something, but that's so much work because you have to write it and then you have to draw it, and drawing it takes years. So
just hire the crew back. Just like
yeah. Can you all draw this for me? It'll cost $6 million to make. Yeah, I don't know. For now, I'm like, let me do some other stuff, and then maybe I'll circle back around to it eventually. You never know. Maybe BoJack will come back someday. Who knows?
Oh my gosh.
That would be crazy.
I know, with that ending, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I didn't learn my lesson. Time for
Oops.
another season.
He's a bad horse. Should have just called it Bad Horse.
Oh my God. Well, let us transition into your newest announced upcoming work, your solo art show at Gallery Nucleus. So what sparked this solo art show?
You're really making a bigger deal of this art show than I expected. I just make a lot of art, and this is a place to put it. No, I've been like working on this, for the last couple of years. Like whenever I don't know what I'm doing, I make art. Like I'm drawing all the time, and I've been painting more lately. First I was painting with oils, and then I was like, these are a pain in the ass. So I got these like thick acrylics, and that's way better and works way better with my sort of impulsive way of working, where I like work really, really fast, over the course of a day, and then I ignore it, for a while. So yeah, I made these big paintings of like naked women with like bouquets of flowers for heads. I'm excited about those. It's kind of like a offshoot of my plant people. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of just like, here's some stuff that I've been doing. And I made this like weird paper mache lady and this other paper mache sculpture that I may or may not finish on time. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I hope people like it and buy my art. That'd be good.
So I feel like most of your art I've seen previously has been watercolor. What made you decide to start going into like oil and acrylic?
I change it up a lot. So I do watercolor. I do a lot of pen and ink, and then I'll color it in with like crayon or marker. The paintings, I've been wanting to make larger scale stuff for a while, and I used to paint in college. So, yeah, I don't know. I just thought it'd be fun. Like when I'm looking at art online, I really like paintings, and it was a different way to work where you have to like really, I consider myself to be a mostly line based, like a drawer, first and foremost, like I'm a doodler. But for painting, you have to kind of like do the opposite and do shape and color instead of line. You can do line, but I think sometimes that's a mistake if you try to make a painting the same way you'd make a pen drawing. This is my personal opinion, but whatever. Everyone can do it their own way. There's no one way to do it.
Yeah.
Like, what's his name? There's that painter. Is his name Jonas Wood? His paintings do kind of have a line, but then they're so graphic, like it works. I don't know. It works really well. Like they almost look like prints or something, but they're just, everyone's got their own way, Yeah. So I think, I just wanted to get like comfortable with painting again, where it still looks like my line and my style, but it's in a totally different medium. And it's fun. It's fun to like slap globs of paint around. Feels good. It's therapeutic.
I've seen you post some of them on Instagram, and I think they're really kind of haunting in a way. Maybe because it is like the way that the colors splash on, which is so different from watercolor. Like the strokes just make it feel very ethereal, probably, or like it kind of looks old timey in a sense too, where kind of like impressionism, I guess.
Cool. I like that. Yeah, Adam was saying you've been making a lot of paintings with deep darks because they look kind of like there's a lot of blues and greens, and they are very dark. I've been doing a lot of nighttime scenes, and that was just kind of the mood I was in. Like while I was making a lot of them, I was definitely like very depressed. Like I went through a little depressive period, which for me, I'm like still productive when I'm depressed, but it does alter the look of my work. So I think that was part of it. Like one of those bouquet paintings, I'm literally thinking about calling it "I Refuse to Be Depressed" as like kind of a tongue-in-cheek, like like I reject this, even though there's actually like you can't do a whole lot about things like that. They just kind of happen sometimes due to whatever brain chemistry is happening. So I don't know. Yeah. It's kind of weird, like you can't always plan the tone or the look of something before you make it. Like sometimes it just kind of comes out the way it comes out, and then later you can be like, oh, it was because I was going through X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I'm not always like fully like aware of why I'm doing the things I'm doing.
I think that's great though, because I know I'm somebody that likes planning, and so then when it doesn't come out the way I expect it to, I'm kind of like upset about it. But if you just let it come out naturally, I think that's probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I think especially with something with like painting, like it's kind of better to let some mistakes happen along the way, and some of them will be good mistakes, and some of them, I mean, one I just had to throw out the entire canvas. It was so bad. I tried to paint a tree and it looked terrible. And I tried to repaint it like 5 times, and I was like, this is just like a sunk cost fallacy. I need to just throw this painting away and just do a new painting. And I did, and that was the right decision. Sometimes you just need to throw something away. And start over. Yeah.
Well, the opening reception is going to be March 23rd. Will there be anything special going on opening night or during the exhibition that people should know about?
The opening night, I will be there in person, so that's fun. And I think we might like have like a special little drink or something, a non-alcoholic beverage as well as alcohol. It's an art opening, so you can just come and like look at the art. I always used to feel super shy going to art openings, because I was like, I don't know how to like schmooze. I just want to look at the art. And I want to say, that's fine. You can just hide in a corner of the room and stare at a painting if you want. I know they can be kind of intimidating. It's like a crowded space. It's funny because my last one was 4 years ago. I thought it was 2 years ago, and then I looked at the calendar and it was actually 4 years ago, which is crazy. But it was in 2020. Like, so we didn't really have an opening because there was COVID, and it was like before anyone was getting vaccinated. It was crazy. So this is nice that I got another chance to like do another show with Gallery Nucleus. They're really nice and like have a really nice space. And it's in Alhambra, which is a great place to go for food.
Oh yeah.
A lot of good food there.
A lot of good food there.
Hell yeah. It seems far, but it's not that far. Far from city proper.
Well, it's going to be far for the west side.
Yeah, if you're coming from Santa Monica, Raphael, then it's far. But if you're coming from like, I don't know, I'm in Los Feliz, so it's not that far.
Yeah. It's a good distance.
Yeah.
How long will the exhibit be up for?
2 weeks, I think.
Really? 2 weeks?
Yeah, not that long. They've got a busy schedule there. But yeah, the art will also be online, and I'm going to figure out some kind of like print situation too. So we'll see. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
I'm just plugging my merch now.
I love it.
But yes, seeing it in person is probably the best.
Yeah. Well, it's like you have to see it in person before you're like, before you're like, okay, I'm going to commit to the print or,
Yeah.
Okay. In the vein of funsies, is there a random animal fact you can tell me?
Oh my goodness. It should probably be like a horse fact, right? Because I know so much about horses. But where to begin? They're so weird. They have so many weird things.
Yeah.
One thing I've been thinking about lately is how when they're born, their hooves are like not even like fully hooves. They're like little tentacles. Like they're kind of soft little... They're like soft and little fingery. It's so scary.
I've seen the photos. I'm like, how is that possible?
I don't know. And then I guess it like hardens up really fast because they can walk and run within like an hour of being born.
Yeah.
So...
And I feel like I've seen the videos where it's been after an hour and you can't see the little tentacly hooves. So I don't know if it's just like right when they come out and they're like that, or...
It's probably so that they don't like scrape up their mom's junk when they're coming out, right? Because it's like they're so, and like also it would kind of puncture the umbilical, like the sac, right? The placenta or whatever, the thing they're in. Like there's probably reasons that they don't have like hard hooves inside. Yeah. But then as soon as those hooves hit air, there's some kind of molecular chemistry process that turns them hard. I just think that's fascinating. Horses are so weird. Really strange. Another weird thing about them is that they're obligate nasal breathers. So like you and I, we can breathe through our mouth and our nose. Yeah. And like, but then if we choke, like if we're choking on a piece of food, we can't breathe, right? Mm-hmm. Horses, they have to breathe through their nose. So they can be choking and just go on about their day like nothing's wrong. I mean, eventually you'll need to clear the choking because they can't like drink or eat with, while they're choking, but like they can go for hours and hours. So yeah, if they're choking, you can like, you have time basically to put them on a trailer and trailer them out to the horse hospital 90 minutes away. That's what I have to do when my horse is sick.
Oh my God. Has Junie ever choked or?
Yes, many times. So glad you asked. Her thing is choking. She actually so my horse only eats soup because she chokes if she eats solid food. That's how bad her throat is. This is like the main problem with her. Her esophagus is so busted. Oh no. So yeah, she's like perfectly healthy other than that.
Wow.
So she's an LA girly who drinks Erewhon smoothies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Is there God. What's the method for them to clear the airway? Or clear their esophagus? It's
terrible. They have to the vet has to shove a tube down their nose and pump water in to try to flush them out, and then it's awful. It's just truly terrible.
Oh my gosh.
And then all this green stuff comes out and they bleed a lot. It's so awful. I hate it. Yeah. So I've had to watch this get done to my baby a few times. Knock on wood. Hopefully she stays.
Yeah, and you were like, this will never happen again because you're drinking soup for the rest of your life.
I know. I should have one of those things that's days since an incident of choking, and it's been a while. So luckily, hopefully it's been over a year since she's had to go through that.
Oh, poor baby.
Yeah, they're very fragile creatures for being so strong. They're very delicate.
How long does a horse last in the wild versus not captivity, but what is it when you domesticate them, I guess?
Yeah. So wild horses they're not technically wild, they're feral. So they are sort of a domestic horse type that has become wild. That sounds like a very pedantic distinction, and I realize I sound like a true horse girl right now, really getting into the weeds on stuff that doesn't matter to anyone. They don't live very long in the wild. They often starve to death, and they have a lot of problems. And so the sort of romanticism of the wild horse it's a little rough. It is honestly better for them to be domesticated. Yeah, in my opinion. In domesticated, I mean, they can live to be 40. They can live a long time. They tend to start to die around 30-ish, but yeah, they can live a while.
Oh wow. Yeah. How old's Junie right now?
Junie is she's turning 18 soon. Oh my she's gosh. In her prime. Yeah, she's a spunky lady.
Is this when she gets the debutante ball?
Yeah, she can smoke.
She can go to prom. I like that.
Oh gosh, who's gonna be her prom date? She has so many suitors.
Is she friendly with the other horses?
Yes, she's very friendly. Her whole vibe is hello, I'm your friend. Hello. And other horses are fuck you. Who the fuck do you think you are? She's so friendly. She's friendly to everyone. She wants everyone to come up to her and pet her.
Oh my gosh.
She has a really nice demeanor. Yeah. She has the best personality of any horse. I'm sorry. She just does. She's super funny. She's really opinionated. She's bratty. I really like her. I have to respect her because she has a lot of opinions, and so sometimes we have to kind of come to an agreement about where to go and how fast to do it. Yeah, but she's a good girl.
Have you ever talked to a pet psychic with her, or?
Yes. So I had an animal communicator come out because the current barn she's in, the person who's running it was Yes, I think you need to talk to this woman. She's an animal psychic, and I think we need to talk about, why Junie is so anxious here. And it's like, I just moved her. And this lady came out and she was like, so the previous place where your horse was she like outside where there's a lot of green grass and she could see like birds and squirrels? And I said, yeah, how did you know that? And she was like, yeah, she misses that. Yeah, she doesn't like her current stall. So I like got her like toys and stuff to try to like make her environment more interesting, and it did make her happier. Yeah, this lady said all kinds of stuff that was really interesting. I was like, yeah, okay. I don't think she's a psychic, like but I don't think she has like magical powers. I just think she's like very good at reading animal personalities. So yeah, that was fun. I think that's like a fun I think animal psychic, it's like a good gift to give someone, because it's like not something any of us want to really spend money on. but but it's very fun to like have someone talk to you about your pet for an hour. And I gotta say, her recommendations like really helped my horse be happier, so worth it, I guess.
All right, well, I am going to, my tarot cards are right behind me. I'm gonna grab that real fast.
Ooh, tarot. Speaking of psychics, awesome.
I know. I like I think it's a fun thing to pull a tarot card towards the end of the episode and kind of see like what comes out for us and for the listeners.
I'm scared. I hope it's not like a demon of doom or something.
Oh my god. We'll see. No. I haven't had that happen. And also it's like,
it's just a skeleton.
I think a lot of people think the devil card is bad, but it's like not that bad actually.
That sounds sexy, a devil card.
Have you done tarot before? Or?
Yes, I have. My friend Ariana Lenarski is like a very good tarot reader.
Ooh.
She's like pro, and so she did my tarot once, like for her podcast about tarot.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It was very fun. I like tarot because it's like telling a story, like you're kind of making up a little story based on what you get.
Yeah, and like a lot of times it's relatable, and that's the creepy part.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that just happened was a card popped out while we were talking, and I was just shuffling. So I'll just pull it up. You got the Queen of Cups.
Oh shit, what does that mean? Oh fuck. Who's she?
I mean, and it's upright, which is good.
Who is this bitch?
Well, the big thing that I'm seeing, and I'll like put the card up to the screen again, is she has the rose in the center of her kind of like solar plexus, and she has a lot of red around her throat, and there's a lot of like energy coming out of her what is that, crown. So it feels very creative and very like energetic. I don't know if there's anything you feel from it, or like, who do you think she is?
I mean, she looks like she's girl bossing, she's gatekeeping, she's in it to win it. This is like some Miranda Priestley energy. And I like it. She seems very powerful, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. I hope she wields that power ethically.
Well, I do feel like it attributes to you, because I do feel you're so creative. I do feel that you have such an energy where you use your voice, you use your creativity, especially into your creative projects and endeavors.
And I have a rose growing out of my solar plexus.
You do, yeah. I see it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's blooming.
And you have like an amethyst in your forehead. It's just like you just look exactly like her.
Yeah, it's uncanny.
Well, basically, when the Queen of Cups comes out, it says you're being asked to trust your intuition and pay attention to your feelings and emotions. Lead with your heart, not your head. And feel the feels, even if those feelings are tricky or challenging. I don't know.
This is good. Although sometimes I think my feelings are a little wild, and then later I realize, oh, that wasn't true. I was just like a little anxious and depressed or something, and so I was like feeling paranoid and sad, but those weren't real feelings. So it's hard. I don't know how to trust my own feelings sometimes, but this is good. I like this. It's like trust your gut kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's helpful because I feel like as an artist, sometimes you kind of don't know like what should I be doing? What should I be working on? What should I be pouring my like creative energy into? And so, yeah, you do kind of have to like trust yourself.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation.
That is a good interpretation because it truly does feel like you just have so much creativity to give and to, release that that trusting that instinct to release it and to put it into, your creative endeavors is like a really good one. So, wow. How beautiful.
Beautiful. It's hard. It's hard to be an artist these days. You gotta like balance what you want to do with like how you gotta make money and all that stuff.
Yeah.
While the industries all collapse around you and AI takes over.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it's the thing about AI that's really interesting right now is that there's no way to give it notes. Like there's nobody that can go in and give it red lines and, be like, or adjust anything in the program, I don't think. You kind of have to just rely on it to figure it out.
You can try to like adjust your prompt, like you can be like, hey, do the same thing, but maybe give it like a normal amount of fingers, you stupid robot. And it may or may not listen to you. I have not been really impressed with any AI art I've seen, and I'm not very threatened by it because I think the thing that it doesn't have any style. Like it takes style from other people and it smooths it out into something that's like appealing or pretty, but that's not the point of art in my opinion, is to be beautiful or look cool. It's also about like the human behind it and why they chose to make this thing. And so without that, it's completely flat for me. It's like completely flavorless. Like for me, style is just the way that an artist makes the same weird mistakes over and over, but they've made such a huge pile of work that those mistakes have become stylish. Like they look like they're done on purpose. Like when I draw stuff, it's not symmetrical. It looks a little wonky, but I feel like that wonkiness, whereas it used to maybe look a little shitty earlier in my career, it now is developed into like it looks like my work. You can tell my line just because I've been making work for years and years and years and years. And AI can try to emulate that, but it doesn't really, it doesn't get it. It's like, I don't know. I have a lot of opinions about it.
Have you started using Glaze? Have you heard of Glaze?
What's that?
It's supposed to be this new, I think it's an app, but basically you run your artwork through it and it's supposed to change it just enough so that if AI sees your work, they won't be able to understand it.
Oh, yes, I have heard of that. No, I haven't. Maybe I should. I don't know. Maybe I should be doing more to protect my work because, like, I am on that list of like stuff that's been trained on.
Oh, geez.
So, and there's not like anything I can do about that. Like, there is sort of like a class action lawsuit maybe forming, but I don't know if it's going to get anywhere. Like, we'll see. That would be awesome if it did. But this stuff is like moving so quickly. It's really hard to get a handle on. And I'm sure, like, I don't know, maybe the stuff I'm saying about AI is going to seem super dated a year from now and I'll be eating my words and I'll be using it like I'm sure there's ways it can be used as a tool that's cool. Like my friends use it for coding, that's kind of
Mm.
neat. But just in terms of like the creative output, I feel very bored by what I've seen. Just not my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, AI, it's really going to be interesting because it's the same kind of, I feel like we're in this weird spot where we just don't know where technology is going to go from now on. Because streaming, people are still trying to figure out how to monetize that. AI, people are still trying to figure out like what that's going to look like. Gaming, people are trying to figure out how to, you know, like keep that from system to system, or technology is in such a weird spot right now where nobody knows where it's going to go and how we're going to be able to, I guess, like in a way profit from it, because all of these new things coming in don't necessarily profit.
I mean, the thing that makes me feel positive or optimistic about it is that people are still watching stuff. Like, people love to watch shows. They love to talk about, like, you know, White Lotus. They love to talk about The Bear, Succession, whatever. Like, people are going to movies. Like, I feel like Letterboxd has, like, perpetuated this, like, excitement for movies and like indie movies in general. And like, I just went to like Vidiots like a week ago to watch The Guest, and it was such a full fun crowd. And like, people are also super craving like monoculture. I think that's why so many
Mm.
people watch the Super Bowl, even though it's like one of the most boring things you could watch. But I watched it. I watched it for I enjoyed the halftime show, but I think
Yeah.
we're just craving like a shared experience because there's like so many different things. We're also separated. We're feeling isolated, but I don't know, like, I don't think that, like, I don't know. I was reading some blog that's like movies are going to not exist 10 years from now. And it's just going to be like, people are just going to be watching like short clips of things on TikTok or something. I'm like, that's not true. I don't know. I don't think TikTok has like replaced people wanting long form content. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think our like attention spans for art have actually diminished that much.
No,
But
I agree.
maybe I'm being naive.
No, I think what you're saying is very, like, I think that's true, because if you think about it, I've seen this kind of argument before where like, if you think about it, painting should have been extinct ages ago, if we think of that logic. But uh, it's still here. It's still being used. Like, and I feel movies are going to be the same way. Maybe it's going to be a niche. Maybe it's not going to be a mainstream thing where, like the whole population is going to be flocking to it. But I still think there's going to be people like us. There's still going to be just as many people that want it and are gonna hold it up, that it'll survive. Like,
Yeah. Like, people like going to see stuff. Like, they like going to shows. Like, they like going to comedy shows. They like going to see, I don't know, I saw Kate Berlant's show recently. Like, that was a packed
oh,
out
nice.
crowd. Like, it's uh yeah, I don't know. I'm optimistic about things.
Yeah. If anything, it'll be a little bit underground for a bit, like, cuz but it's nice kind of when it's underground. I've enjoyed, cuz there's something about going to these smaller um kind of venues or smaller creative outlets to actually find like a better community and kind of feel like, wow, we're just so connected, rather than a huge amphitheater of like people going to see Beyonce or something. As much as like that's awesome that so many people want to see Beyonce.
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I loved seeing Beyonce. That was great. That
I
was
think I just
awesome.
use yeah, but there's just something about a small scale too that's really
Yeah,
precious.
there is something to I think there's something to like cutting out the middleman right now, because if the middleman is like, something controlled by David Zaslav, like maybe you're better off like kind of making your own thing and releasing it yourself on YouTube, or making a mini comic, or doing whatever it is you need to do to just get your thing directly from you to the people who will enjoy it. Whether
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be on a huge scale. Like, you can build that audience slowly. I mean, that's how I started mini comics and like web comics, and yeah, just kind of like, yeah, small scale stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen, like, the one I'm thinking of right now is Heavy Manor Comics, where people have been reading their comics out loud to a group of people.
Yes, I did that. I did get COVID, but
Oh my. Oh no.
I don't want to blame. Okay, so I either got it there or I got it when I went to see Stop Making Sense. But I think, and you know what? I survived. It was fine. I'm okay. But like, I'm just going to say, if you're like laughing with a crowd in a very small basement with no ventilation, yeah, maybe wear a mask. Yeah. In hindsight, I would have taken more precautions. It's entirely my fault, but it was a like very fun experience because I hadn't done a comics reading in like a really long time, so that was great. And I made like a comic specially for it, and so yeah, it was just fun to read it in person and get that audience reaction.
Yeah.
I'm very like, I don't really like performing, and I go into kind of a fugue state during it where I just don't know if it's doing well or not. Like, I could never be a stand-up comedian. That's so crazy to me.
Have you even tried?
No. Okay. I mean, Adam likes to tell me that I could do it, and I definitely know the structure of the jokes. Like, I know how to come up with stand-up jokes, but I know the jokes are only part of it, right? Like, the performance and the ease with the audience, like, that's a whole different animal that would take 10 years to master. I mean, there's definitely people who are good at it right away, but like, no, it's like a skill like anything else. And being bad at stand-up and trying it, I could not tolerate. It would be so devastating. Like, I've been to open mics, it's rough. But yeah. I can't. I like doing comics readings because you can rely on the art, you know, like there's a whole thing there to kind of fill in the gaps, so it's less dependent on your performing.
Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. I'm like cringing imagining doing it.
Oh my gosh. I know. It's like that thing where we're just like, this is why we're artists and not performers.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to box myself in and be like, no, I'm an introvert. Because like, no, I clearly am a ham. Like, I like attention and I like making people laugh. But like, but yeah, I don't like standing on a stage and everyone's looking at me. It's fine.
Yeah.
I would do it if I had to. Like, gun to my head, yeah, I would do stand up.
Yeah. But yeah, there is just something about being like, well, I visually can just see it in my head, and drawing it out is way more easier than trying to act it out and trying to like showing you through kind of miming.
Yeah. It's funny though, like I think like making a show and selling a show involved a lot of kind of like drawing on my old theater kid kind of experience, and it did involve like acting it out a little bit. Like, I kind of had to like, you know, you have to put a little razzle dazzle into like pitching out your season or whatever. Yeah, I sang a song when I pitched the show.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
yeah, I pretended to be Bertie and I sang a song about being anxious. You do what you gotta do.
Do you remember any of it, or?
Yeah, it was that song, like, I'm losing my shit for no reason, from the 4th episode. That was originally going to be the pilot. And then yeah.
Wow. Well, learning so much.
I know. Ancient history.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll see if like there's going to be more on the horizon, right? So
yeah, there's always new things coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more stuff I'm working on that I can't talk about yet, but someday, hopefully soon.
Someday. I know. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for being here and talking with me. Is there anything you want to promote and tell listeners where to keep up with your latest work?
You can follow my Instagram. I'm at Lisa Draws. My website's lisahanawalt.com. Kind of all you need to know will be there. I want to plug your own podcast on your podcast because I really like it. I just listened to Allison Morse's episode. It's really great. It's like a lot about mental health, which I really, really appreciated. And I liked Aaron Long's episode. I just went and like listened to the ones people I know, but I think it's really cool that you started a podcast and you have your shit together because you started a whole Instagram account for your podcast, which like, I don't know. I did a podcast for 12 years and we didn't manage to do that. So good on you.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot of work.
I'm trying.
You're tired. You're thriving.
I'm doing what I can.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Sam.
Sadly, we are at the end. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy this podcast, please follow or subscribe. You can also follow Tired and Thriving on Instagram at Tired and Thriving, all one word. There you can reach out, give feedback, or maybe let me know how you've been uniquely thriving. You can also reach out through email at tiredandthriving@gmail.com. Thank you again, and I hope you all have a thriving week. See you next time.